Leonard Nimoy passed away, and wow, what a sad day. You might be wondering where this is from. I'll explain in a second. Live long and prosper. But uh, when I first heard that Mr. Nimoy had this disease last week, he was admitted in the hospital for it last week, I thought, he's a tough guy. He'll come out of it. And he didn't. He lived 83 great years. 83 great years. Now, you may be wondering what this book is. This book is called I Am Spock by Leonard Nimoy. Mr. Spock and Leonard Nimoy had a profound impact on how I grew up because, and there's a reason why my channel is called Zenny62. I was born in 1962, and I watched the Star Trek, the original series, when it was on television, starting from 1966 to 68. And what Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek and Spock made it okay to be smart. Leonard Nimoy's character, Spock, was the first nerd. He was the guy that always had the answers, that thought in a process way, an orderly way, a logical way, and held his emotions in check. You have to remember he was half human. And understood how to overcome his own personal demons for the betterment of his crewmates on the Starship Enterprise and for his boss, Captain James T. Kirk. Boy, Star Trek was my favorite character, so much so that when I was between the ages of 12 and 15, 16, I would have my sideburns pointed like Spock's. Like Spock's sideburns were pointed. Here. I had the pleasure of meeting the man in 2000, actually twice. First in 1976 at the Star Trek convention in Oakland, where I worked as a volunteer. And the second time was 1981 when I was a sophomore at the University of Texas at Arlington and on something called the Forums Council. And everyone was gathered at this large table, and Leonard Nimoy was at the head of it, and people were afraid to talk, and so I just said, so Mr. Nimoy, can you talk about your play Equus? And the reason why I did that was because he didn't want to talk about Spock at the time. He was so busy at that time trying to deal with the identity of being Spock. He had written a book called I Am Not Spock. Then he came out with this, I Am Spock, and he finally embraced who he was, as a character. This is as a person beyond the character, and how the character impacted who he was after so many years of just avoiding it. This came out in 1995. That's a photo, excuse me, but trying to find the copyright here of the book. Because all the elements are 95 and the first edition. At any rate, 1995. But when I met him, then, this is 81, he didn't want to be thought of as Spock. He didn't like it. It was too much for him. He didn't want to be typecast in that role. But Leonard Nimoy finally, it's over 10 years later, embraced his Spockness. Mr. Spock was also the symbol for Star Trek, and the reason why I wear this, the Star Trek crew symbol, is because it's a representation of the idea that our world will always get better, and that we will come to a point where we truly accept people and beings regardless of what they look like or who they are. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations. The Edict. I've got to find one of those. If you know where I can find one, let me know. But it's a very sad day because not just for me, but for a lot of people, my friends. I called my friend Bill Boyd and Lars Frickman and trying to find Craig Pryor's cell phone number because we formed our friendships around Star Trek, and we all had our favorite episodes. Mine being Tholian Web was one, and also the Corbomite Maneuver, another. Loved it. And it's a very sad day. It really is a sad day. But one thing I'm very delighted is that Leonard Nimoy did embrace he was Spock. He's a great man, both in and out of character.